When you have hardened phones, which is what Erik Prince's company came up with, and other companies have come up with hardened phones before that.
Circle phone and a bunch of different ones.
We have active partners in the hardened cellular world where we promote them and sell their products to our clients to make sure that they have that protection against nefarious actors. So, without going, into super boring details, the idea of an open phone versus a hardened phone, it's not about the phone or the operating system as much as it's about what permissions are put on that phone. The best hardened phones prevent you from even saying yes to an app that would let you disclose your location. That's the best kind of hardened phone. But what we find is a lot of times users, even when they have that phone in their hand, I have a client in California who has a hardened phone, and it's such a pain in the ass to use it.
He just doesn't use it.
He just doesn't use it.
So I'll use that iPhone.
Yep. And every time I'm there with one or two of my other support partners, he always says the same thing. He's like, I have the phone. I hate using it. It doesn't work the way I want it to work, right? Like, it takes too long for me to send this or send that, and people can't reach me, so I don't even use it. And we're like, hey, that's your prerogative.
Yeah.
But the truth is those phones work because you and I know that there's a spectrum between convenience and security.
Oh, yeah.
The more secure something is,
bigger pain in the ass. Yeah, I mean, it's like concealed carry and having a really intrusive alarm system in your house. I mean, it's a pain in the ass. You trip it or you forget to set it, or or carrying. Like, there's places that it's problematic to carry in, or it's a pain in the ass. It's uncomfortable. Yeah, I mean, I certainly get all that. I feel like I could just keep bouncing into the what ifs. Trying to get through the lightning round quick. It's not so lightning anymore. If time travel was possible, where would you go and why?
Oh, man. So if time travel was possible, I would go into the future. And I would try to go into the future far enough where I could sit with a member of my family 3 generations from now. Because what I want to know is if I'm doing a good job now.
Yeah.
Like, am I being the father I want to be? Am I teaching the lessons I want to teach? Am I instilling a culture in my children that they will perpetuate with their children?
Yeah.
And I don't want to talk to my son when he's 40 years old. I would love it. But who I really want to talk to is my son's son when he's 25 years old, and understand, like, hey, tell me about your grandpa.
Yeah.
Because that's going to tell me about the impact I made as a father.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating, a unique answer, and also highlights how sad it is how few people know anything about their great-grandparents. Like, most people don't know their names, what they did, where they're from, where they grew up, if they had siblings, and to me that's kind of sad, that unfortunately the circle of life is such that even though most people, I think, are generally pretty proud of their heritages, wherever the fuck that's from, and celebrate it, some of it, I think, is people are fucking bored being Americans, and they're like, well, my heritage is from fucking wherever, and so I'm going to wear this. It's like, I'm going to wear a kilt now because my fucking grandpa, was from Ireland or whatever. But,
well, even on a more personal level, right? Like, I came from a broken family. My father was killed in a violent crime before I was born. I was raised by my mom and my grandmother. My grandmother had been through, I think, 2 divorces in her life. And my grandmother recently passed about a month and a half ago. She was,
I'm sorry.
I appreciate that. She was one of the loves of my life, raised me as a child. But the point is, even upon her deathbed, the legacy that she was really leaving behind isn't a legacy that she would be very proud to know is happening.
Yeah.
Infighting between her kids, ostracization of her youngest against from the 3 oldest, the family politics. And then even now, as the family and my cousins and I and my sisters and I are all thinking about getting together for the wake,
yeah,
right? We're not excited for the wake,
yeah, because
we know what's going to happen. Aunt A is going to argue with Aunt B, and Uncle C is going to get drunk, and there's going to be fighting about everything else. All of this when what Grandma would have actually wanted is for us to all just be like, hey, let's rally behind the fact that this wonderful woman gave us everything she could give us to try to help us be better than she ever had. And we already know that's not how it's going to turn out. It'll start there.
Yeah.
Right? In the funeral home, it'll start there. But eventually the fucking Tecate is going to come out and we're going to go Mexican again.
Yeah. Well, to me, if you think about, the amount of people that are that influential, like the level of leadership, influence, and long game thinking you have to employ your entire life to set that stage to where you're great grandson knows who you are and is living a life based on how you lived, like who the fuck falls into that category? Like nobody.
Yeah.
You know, I can't even, I mean, Winston Churchill's great grandson probably fucking, you know, watches porn and smokes weed. You know, I mean, I don't know. Like I'd be hard pressed to know of anybody that's that influential, but I think I do think that if everybody lived that way, our entire planet would be 10x better than it is, if they thought of it in that regard. But do you have a favorite quote?
It's retarded. I have my favorite quote is "No shit" from Yoda.
Yeah.
Right. Do or do not, there is no try. Is like, I don't know why, but that is a quote that has never left me.
Yeah.
And I wish I had some sort of cool academic Winston Churchill or,
Paragraph.
Eisenhower quote or something.
Yeah.
I learned a bunch when I was in the military, but the one that always comes to my mind in hardship and in success is like, stop fucking talking about trying and hoping and aspiring and just do it or don't do it.
Yeah. No, I love it. It's a good no bullshit one. Living in Colorado, do you have an EDC? Do you carry?
I don't carry a handgun. I don't carry a firearm. Right. The everyday carry that I carry are practical tools that I was taught at CIA. I always have $100 in cash and small bills. I always have shoes with laces, and I always have some sort of waterproof layer. Those are my 3 everyday carry, and those served me all through CIA because no matter where you are, you don't look like a threat, you don't identify like a threat, and you can bug the fuck out of any threatening situation as long as you have shoes with laces, capital that can be liquidated in a hurry, and a layer to protect you from wetness specifically.
Yeah. Is $100 enough nowadays still?
I get that question a lot too. In most parts of the world, $100 gets you out of a pretty nasty situation, right? Especially if you have it in 1s, 5s, and 10s, and 20s too. But 1s, 5s, and 10s are critical because the currency exchange is still very much pro-U.S. and there's still a aura about American dollars that people will take an American dollar. A $5 bill is worth $20 worth of value because it's American currency, and people get excited about that. In India, Pakistan, Southeast Asia, South America, Africa.
Is there any concern in those environments that it just being American currency that is going to translate to you being more threatening than if it wasn't?
In some countries, yes. American currency in Russia is going to fuck you. In Belarus, it's going to fuck you. In Ukraine, it's going to fuck you, right? Because you're going to highlight who you are. But in other parts of the country or other parts of the world, U.S. currency Americans think that people like us because of our ideology. Most of the world fucking hates America because we're a bunch of overweight, self-aggrandized, entitled,
nosy,
overeducated people who bitch about how hard our life is and how unfair the world is, when we have no idea what it's like to actually have flies landing on our eyeballs and not knowing where the fuck you're going to eat. Every time I go to a first world country in Southeast Asia, like when I go to China or Singapore, when I go to Thailand or Taiwan, there are still people delivering meat. Like you'll find the carcass of a pig being delivered from the butcher to, like from the main butchery to a neighborhood butcher on a scooter, right? Little fucking 14-year-old kid with nylon straps and a dead pig on his back delivering the meat. Like that's first world still. You wouldn't see that here in the United States at all. Yeah. So what ends up happening is people hate America for Americans. People love America for our wealth.
Yeah.
And the currency carries the stigma of the wealth without carrying the stigma of Americans and American values and American entitlement.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I mean, obviously due diligence on where you're going and what currency to carry and how much is going to go a long way. But what would be the second best currency? Euros if you weren't going to carry American?
Whatever the local currency is, yeah. Okay. Like if you're in Europe, euros. If you're in Latin America, you've got different currencies all over Latin America.
Any benefit from your perspective to carrying like 1/10 ounces of gold? Like because they're so small, or silver coins at $30 an ounce. I mean, is there any value in that you could see?
So what I see is a lot of value in hard assets like that being cached, right? So one of the smartest people I've ever met had a cache in their kitchen under a wood plank that was no shit something he could like step on it the right way and it would pry out. And inside he had a little toolbox, and inside the toolbox he had about $50,000 worth in different graduated amounts of silver and gold, ounced, coins for all intents and purposes. Super smart thing to do, because just like we're talking about having the leverage of the wealth overseas by having a $5 bill or a $20 bill, inside the US, if things go tits up inside the United States, that's going to go a long way. A piece of silver, a piece of gold, multiple pieces of gold. Even though people may not understand the value of it, like $30 might not always be worth $30.
Yeah.
Right. But when the day comes that $30 collapses and nobody knows what that's worth, a thumbnail sized gold coin is always going to be something people value.
Yeah. Well, to me, that's the neat thing about 10th ounces of gold. You wouldn't want, if you buy 10 ounce or 1/10 ounce coins of gold, you're going to pay way more than the spot price of 1 ounce. But 3 or 4 of those, they're worth, gold right now is $2,500 an ounce. So 3 or 4 of those you could honestly carry in your fucking mouth. Like they're tiny. They're smaller than a dime even, or maybe dime size at the biggest. And they're worth $240 a piece.
Yep.
Imagine now, that's not a quick get out, but you have, a handful of those stashed in your sock or a secret spot in your shoe or wherever, like overseas. You go cash that into a place and you get a couple $1,000s American currency, and it weighs nothing. You know?
Well, and the other thing to keep in mind too is it's also something that you can barter for big purchases. Like if I'm in Cambodia and I need to get the fuck out of Cambodia so that I can get into Vietnam, I can go to a private airstrip, and I can find a private pilot with a respectable car or a respectable plane, and I can give him 1/10 of an ounce of gold and be like, hey, all I need you to do is fly me into Vietnam, right? I'll take care of the paperwork. You just fly me.
Yeah. For that matter, you could carry ounce gold coins. They're still not that big, and they're $2,400 a piece, you know. Here we are getting off track more than I normally do. All right. Do you have a morning routine? What time do you get up, and what's the first 3 hours of your day look like?
Yeah, I do have a morning routine. I'm actually really proud of it. It's taken a long time to kind of perfect it, but I do not wake up to an alarm. I wake up naturally. In my room, I have one window with no curtains, and then I have other windows that have light curtains, so no heavy dark blackout curtains. I let the sun wake me up, or my family wakes me up naturally.
Old knee to the nuts.
Happens sometimes. But then I drink 500 milliliters of water. First thing I consume is 500 milliliters of water. I go through 15 to 20 minutes of quiet time. So before I look at screens, before I watch TV, before I turn on the radio or put on headphones, it's just quiet time. And the reason I do that is because CIA taught me that in those first few minutes of the day, you're still indexing information from your night before, because your brain indexes when it's asleep, connects disparate ideas, solidifies memories, etc. So your best time to innovate is when you come out of that brain phase of sleep and you let your brain continue to index information. And then by having nothing but water's hydrating my organs and hydrating my internal system without adding calories. Calories require processing, et cetera, et cetera. So there's just tons of benefits to going through that process. And then after that first 30 minutes or so, then I'll go through eating. I eat eggs, usually egg whites, vegetables, fruits. That's what I start my day with. High fiber, high nutrition, high protein rich foods. And then I'll roll into probably 20 or 30 minutes of just quality connection time with my wife, with my kids. My kids homeschool. My wife works in the business with me.
Oh, nice.
So if the sun wakes me up around 7:30 or 8, I'm not really working until about 10:30 or 11. And all that first 3 hours is spent just priming my body to be really efficient from about 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock, so I can do what I need to do in a day in about 4 hours.
Yeah.
And then get to the gym, focus on kids, family time, husband time, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you mind if I ask how old your kids are?
I have a 7-year-old daughter, and I have an 11-year-old son.
How have you homeschooled them the whole time?
So my son went to a pre-kindergarten school when we were in Florida, which was the same year that we had our daughter. And we put him in that school because we knew we were having a second child and we wanted to see how it would go. We were excited to put him through public school. But then it became very clear that the structure that was being presented to them, even at that young age, was structure that benefited the institution, not the child.
Yeah.
And that was when my wife and I were like, we got to find a better way. And we looked at Montessori schools and we looked at all sorts of shit. And at the end of the day, we were like, no one is going to invest in our kids as much as we are. So let's figure out how we do this our way.
Yeah.
So we homeschooled our children, just the two of us, from the time my son was about 4 up until this year. And then this year, we finally reached a level of wealth with our company that we were able to hire our own private educator. So a governess is what they're called in the UK.
That sounds kinky. Talking about kids, fuck.
But yeah, so now we homeschool still,
Yeah.
but we essentially have a private teacher who
does what you want
and follows a curriculum that is homeschool based and homeschool tradition. Even though she herself is traditionally educated and very well educated and experienced, she's able to take all that and turn it into a homeschool curriculum that we can monitor real time in the house.
Yeah, that's awesome. Look, I mean, my kids are done with school at this point, basically. But to do it over again, I would have homeschooled them. You know, it's a absolute fucking travesty what public school in most cases. I think there are some school districts here or there that are decent, but overwhelming majority of them in the United States are just an absolute fucking Greek tragedy.
And you know, we often justify homeschooling by talking about the disastrous public school and private school education thing here in the United States. But the second half of that is you also get to be with your kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
We only get, I mean, your kids are grown, so you know better than most. That's a one-way train.
Oh, I know. And that window, even though it's open for, almost 20 years, it feels like it's about 2 fucking weeks, And yeah, I mean, it's, to me, I love the way you're going about it. To do it over, I would do it exactly like that. Can I ask what the curriculum is?
So our children follow, it's not a standard curriculum. So it's like, once you get into the world of homeschool, there's
so many of them.
Classical and Greek and whatever else. Our curriculum, for all intents and purposes, is called an unschooled, student-led curriculum, meaning it's the antithesis of school. There's no structure to, we start at 9 o'clock, we end at 3 o'clock. There's no structure like a school structure. And then it's student-led. So whatever they're currently interested in, it's the educator's responsibility to find a way to work the 5 core subjects into whatever topic the kids are interested in. So for example, my son, out of nowhere, man, and I love it, trust me, but out of nowhere, he started taking an interest in blacksmithing.
Really?
Yeah. So
awesome.
So my wife worked with our private educator. They found a local blacksmithing studio that teaches kids. So then he went and forged a knife.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Holy shit. And then he brings home this forged knife, shows me, and of course I'm like, is there a dad? Is there a dad program? So then we go back, we forge knives together.
That's cool.
Right? And the educator's job is now to recognize he's interested in this. So now he's learning knives of different military conflicts from different time periods, different metallurgy, why metals respond differently.
Chemistry, math, you name it.
Exactly. It all applies to the heat. It applies to the math. It applies to the science. It applies to social sciences, right?
Yeah,
and my daughter's in a completely different place. She doesn't really care about forging weapons. She's really into fashion and design. So we do the exact same thing, right? The material sciences behind the fabrics, the measurements behind the fabrics, the ingredients that go into different types of makeup. That's the beautiful thing about homeschooling and in our world, child-led learning. Because if you were like me, I remember, it's time to learn about ancient Egypt. And I was like, who the fuck cares about ancient Egypt? Yeah. But there was also a time in my life when I did care about ancient Egypt. It's just...
Typically, the older you get, the more you care about ancient Egypt. Yeah, it's fascinating, man. That's such a cool program. I'm curious, at the end of their childhood, the late teens, early 20s, like it'll be fascinating to see kind of what they're into and where they're at and what they do with it, like where they go from there.